The history of nuclear warfare. What is nuclear warfare? Nuclear warfare is a military conflict or political strategy in which nuclear weaponry is used to inflict damage on the enemy. War and weaponry changed as we knew it in August of 1942. Before this, nuclear weaponry and war was a great unknown. But on October 11, 1939, President Franklin Roosevelt received a letter from Albert Einstein that completely changed everything. In the letter, Einstein told of a nuclear bomb that could be built, and in this letter he warned Roosevelt that the Germans were already aware of this and were working on building a nuclear bomb and building a prototype. President Roosevelt took this warning very seriously, and within a month of receiving the letter, he formed a secret group known as the Manhattan Project. This group was supposed to be kept top secret, and it was until President Roosevelt's death. This secret group developed the first nuclear weapon. The first atomic bombs were designed and built at a site in Los Alamos, New Mexico, which was a remote location and had existing buildings from the days of when it was a school. On July 16, 1945, the world entered the nuclear age with the detonation of the first atomic bomb. This explosion created a crater which measured nearly 2,400 feet across and was the equivalent of about 20,000 TNT bombs. The Manhattan Project produced 3 bombs. The first was known as Gadget, and it was used as a test bomb. It was never set off to inflict harm. The second one was known as Little Boy and was detonated over the city of Hiroshima. And approximately 3 days later, the final bomb, Fat Man, was detonated over Nagasaki. The 2 bombs used in World War II are the only nuclear weapons that have been used to inflict damage and have been used, period. Although nuclear weapons were developed by the Soviet Union in 1949, which was shortly after World War II ended, the United Kingdom in 1952, France in 1960, and China in 1964. And China, when they created their bombs, this was it contributed greatly to the state of conflict and extreme tension that became known as the Cold War. So when China was doing research and when they developed the bomb, it was a very big factor in the Cold War starting. And in 1974, India, and in 1998, Pakistan, 2 countries that were openly hostile towards each other, developed nuclear weapons. The closest that the world has ever come to another nuclear attack was during the Cold War between the US and the Soviet Union. Thankfully, nothing happened, but even today, nuclear war is a threat. Today, nuclear warfare is not as big of a threat, but it is something to watch out for. Russia and the United States dominate the field with Russia obtaining 11,000 nuclear weapons and the USA obtaining 9,000 nuclear weapons. These 2 countries combined have over 95% of the nuclear weapons in the world. In August of 1942, as I said earlier, the US set up a group known as the Manhattan Project. And as you can see from the facts that I just read, this is a display of the nuclear weapons that are obtained by different countries in the United States, with this being Russia and this being the United States. And in these countries, just a few countries own a little over 100 nuclear weapons each. But as you can see, Russia has around 11,000 and the United States has over 9,000. And nuclear warfare today, so as I said earlier, nuclear warfare is not as big as a deal as it was, but it's still on the rise, especially with Donald Trump being elected in the presidency. It's created a lot of concern by a lot of high elected officials. But nuclear weaponry is a very fascinating and frightening weapon. The secrecy and history behind it makes it a very morbid reality. Thank you.